What is going on, my beautiful people? It's CaioFerraz. Thank you so much for clicking and welcome back to my channel. I'm an electronic pop violinist, meaning that I take the classical elements and bring them into a more modern field by playing songs that people don't usually expect to hear on the violin. So if this is your first time here, be sure to check out some of my previous videos and let me know what you think of them. I hope you enjoy them. Today we're going to be talking about something that I get asked quite a lot about, actually. We're going to discuss the differences between an acoustic violin and an electric violin. We're going to be talking about the differences in sound. We're going to be talking about the differences in how they look and how and where you would play them. And I'm also going to be playing both of these for you guys to compare the two of them so you can have a listen for yourself. My intention with this video is to answer some of the questions that I get regarding this topic, but also to help you decide which one you should get in case you're considering buying a violin. So let's start from the acoustic violin. Acoustic violins are usually the ones that have the classic violin look. They're made out of wood. They're usually handmade, they're hollow on the inside, and their shape is always the same. With this one, the way it is made and the crafting of the instrument will actually directly affect its sound. Now this one is an electric violin. It can be made out of pretty much any material and you can get it in all sorts of shapes and cool colors because the body of the instrument will have zero effect on the sound. Not only does the acoustic violin have the traditional violin look, but it also has obviously the traditional violin sound. Now the way sound is made with this one is actually pretty simple. When you play the string, you vibrate it into the bridge, which then takes the vibration to the body of the violin, and you can't really see it from there, but inside here there's something called the sound post, which then takes this vibration from the top of the violin to the back, making the entire instrument vibrate, and then the sound finally comes out through the F-holes. The electric violin, on the other hand, has a more artificial sound, or so to speak, and the way sound is made with this one, it actually gets picked up from all the electronics inside and it travels through a wire. So it doesn't vibrate through the body of the instrument like the acoustic does, hence why the shape of the instrument won't affect the sound. However, you will need an amp to play this one. If it is unplugged, the electric violin has a very thin and quiet sound. Here's how it sounds like without an amp. In order to appreciate the instrument in full, you will need an instrument jack, like this one, and an amp. And here's how it sounds like once it's plugged in. And this is the sound of an acoustic violin. So now that you have an idea of the sounds between the two of them, let's talk about it briefly. Every acoustic violin will have its own tone, and you can't really do much about it. Whereas with the electric violin, some of them have some built-in functions such as volume switches, EQs. Some of them can have some built-in effects as well, like reverb. Mine does. With the electric violin, you're able to play around with the tone of the instrument a lot more. So if you want it to sound in any specific way, all you have to do is just play around with your bass, your treble, and your middle tones, and you can adjust the sound to however you like it. You can't do as much on the acoustic violin though. Now, another thing that's important to mention is the weight of both instruments. The acoustic violin is a lot lighter than the electric ones. And that's mainly because, like we've talked about before, the acoustic violin is hollow on the inside, and the electric violin has a lot of stuff in it that actually makes it work. Practicing. Like every other instrument, the violin does require that you practice it. And that could potentially become a problem when it comes to the acoustic violin because, like we've talked about, you can't really do much regarding the sound of the instrument and the levels of volume as well. But what you can do is get one of these. This is a mute, it goes over the bridge and it actually mutes a lot of the sound of the instrument. I'll show you what it sounds like with this on. So this is the sound of the violin without the mute. And this is the sound of the violin with the mute on. So as you can see, it makes a big difference. It mutes a lot of the sound of the instrument, but it is still not as quiet as an electric violin unplugged. Let's talk about that. Now, I personally believe that electric violins are really good for private practice because even though it does have that very thin, quiet, and rather annoying sound, it also does have headphone sockets on. So you can literally plug in your headphones on it, and then you'll be able to practice with a much better sound quality. When would you use the two of them? Acoustic violins are usually associated with more traditional settings, orchestras, school settings, chamber music, and basically anything classically related. Whereas the electric violin is usually associated with rock music and bands and concerts and nightclub performances, basically modern music. Now regarding that as well, I just wanted to say real quick that I do think that the violin is such a versatile instrument. You can literally play anything on the violin. And that being said, I genuinely do not think that you should limit yourself based on the instrument you're playing. So for instance, if you're a big modern music lover and you want to play pop music on the violin, but you only have an acoustic violin, go for it. And if by any chance you only have an electric violin and you're a huge classical music lover, go for it. Don't limit yourself based on the instrument you have. Just play whatever you love. Another cool thing about the electric violin is that since you will need an amp to make it work, you can also plug in backing tracks into the amp and play along with them. And that means that you can do gigs and even go busking completely by yourself. Just you, the amp, the violin, the backing tracks, and you play along with it. Whilst it might be tempting to get an electric violin because of the way it looks and all the cool things you can do with it, if you have no experience with the violin, I would definitely recommend that you start with an acoustic. You don't have to spend as much money on an acoustic violin to start with. You can spend anything from $500 upwards on a very good acoustic violin to start with, because a lot of it comes down to personal taste. But with the electric violin, you get what you paid for. The cheap ones will usually be very heavy, very uncomfortable to play, and when you plug them in, they just don't sound very nice at all. As well as that, the violin is an instrument that is literally all about the details and precision. And when you're playing the acoustic violin, you can physically feel the vibrations of the wood that are essential when learning how to play correctly, mastering your technique, and developing good ear. For example, when you play certain notes in tune, you can physically hear and feel the ringing of some strings, and use that as a sonic and a visual guide. Lastly, it is crucial, and I cannot stress this enough, it is very, very important that you learn the correct hand position and the correct technique. Not only because that's the right way of playing the instrument, but because you can actually injure yourself in the future if you don't do it correctly. And the standard shape of the acoustic violin can really help you with that. If you remember from the beginning of this video, I've mentioned that some electric violins can have different shapes, right? So if you're not experienced, you may not be able to perform the correct technique on them. In conclusion, I would recommend that you start on an acoustic violin because that will help you with the right technique, the right posture, the right way of holding the instrument, the right way of changing positions. You can also feel the instrument responding to what you do and use that as a guide to perfect your technique, which you can't really do as much on the electric violin. Plus, with the same amount of money, you will get a much better instrument acoustically than you get with an electric. Also, with electric instruments, you will have to buy an amp as well as the instrument, and that's just a complete different topic. Trust me on this one, you find it a lot easier and accurate to learn on an acoustic violin first. So my advice would be start with an acoustic, and then once you're past that beginner's level and gain some more experience, then you can save up some money, buy an electric violin, and have a lot of fun with it. Well guys, this was it for today. I hope you find this video instructive. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to stay up to date. Be sure to get social with me on all my social medias. All the links are going to be in the description down below as well. If you have any questions, just drop them below in the comment section and I'll be more than happy to hear from you guys and talk to you over there. And if there are any topics that you guys want me to talk about as well, just let me know which ones they are and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for all your love and support, guys. I will see you very soon.